Hello everybody. Today I'm going to walk you through my latest pattern, this little owl mug rug. Isn't that super cute? Look, it's quilted. Isn't that just adorable? I even made it so that the arms are movable. While you could certainly do this or sew it so that it's stationary and permanent, isn't that just adorable? If you love mug rugs like I do, then you know you can use them for all kinds of stuff, right? I like to use them at my desk as a mouse pad. I like to set my coffee on them. I like to have little snacks on them. And while I hate to think of putting food on him, it's totally okay because you could just throw this in the wash and wash it for your next use, which really cuts down on paper plates and napkins and paper towels, right? One of the reasons, or many of the reasons, why I love using mug rugs. Come with me as we make this adorable little guy. If you would like the pattern, the link is down in the description box below. You can grab that. It also comes with cutting files, which I'll be using in today's video with my scan and cut. You don't have to have a cutting machine. You can totally trace and cut out all the pieces by hand as well. Let's get started. This pattern actually comes with 3 pages of body parts. So the body of the owl was too big to put on one sheet. You're going to have to cut that out and glue or tape those 2 sections together. And then you have a little foot template and you have 2 wing templates. So you're going to just prep all of your body parts by cutting them out on the outside line. The pattern has been enlarged to include a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you're just going to go through and prep all of your pieces. I'm just going to walk you through taping the 2 body sections together. Pretty easy prep for this pattern. I'm just using a glue stick. And then we have 1 pattern piece for the body. You're going to use that for both the front and the back of this mug rug. Let's just go through and cut out the rest of your pieces. We're going to move on to cutting the fabrics for the front and the back of the owl. For all of your pieces, you can use this method of just tracing the paper template all the way around the very outside edge of each one of the templates. And then you can just use a pair of scissors to cut out right on that traced line. So you don't have to have a cutting machine, but they sure do come in handy. For the second owl body part, I'm going to move over to my scan and cut. And what I've done in Canvas Workspace is deleted all the other parts and just sent over the body of the owl. And in the SVG, that's 1 piece. You don't have to mend them together. So I scanned my fabric on the mat and made sure that my template was centered on the fabric, and now I can just cut that out directly on my fabric mat. Once you have your body pieces, we're going to move over and start cutting out the applique portions. The A, B, and C eye pieces, you're going to trace twice and cut out 2 of each of those shapes. You can certainly trace and cut those out by hand. I'm going to again send them over to my cutting machine. So this time I just arranged all the applique pieces on my mat in Canvas Workspace and sent that over to my cutting machine. So I loaded all the fabrics for each of these pieces right on my fabric mat. I have heat and bond light on the back side of my fabrics, and I still have the paper on as well. It's going to quickly just cut out each one of my applique pieces, and then I can just gather those up and come back to the pressing mat. Make sure to use the front side of your owl piece. You might have used different fabrics. And also keep in mind there's going to be a 1/4 inch seam allowance all around the edges. So just figure that in when placing all of your pieces. I'm going to go ahead and bond the chest and the bigger sections of the eye. And then place the beak. And for this mug rug, I'm going to have this little fellow looking off to the left. So I'm going to position the centers of my eyes just like this. They're just going to fuse all these pieces really well. You can use your favorite type of fusible. Just follow the instructions for whatever kind of fusible you're using. Now that those are fused in place, we can create the layers of our mug rug. So I have a piece of batting laid down first, the back of my owl with the right side facing up, and then we can lay the front of the owl right over top of that with the right side facing down. And I'm just going to pin all of these layers in place. We're going to bring this over to the sewing machine and sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. Now at your opening, you don't want to forget to do a back stitch and lock these stitches in place. That's a lot to stuff through that opening as we turn the body right side out. And you also might want to use a little bit of a shorter stitch. The curvy sections of the ears, you'll get a much nicer curve if your stitch length is a little bit shorter. Now I can go ahead and just remove all that extra batting all the way around, and you can use pinking shears if that's easier for you. I'm going to just bring in a pair of sharp little scissors and snip the seam allowance all the way around. We have some curvy lines, and your body will lay a lot flatter if you go through and take the time to just snip that seam allowance, just being careful not to snip the stitch line. Then I'm going to use just a small pair of hemostats and reach in and turn this owl body right side out. You can reach in with a little pokey tool and just poke out those ears and smooth out all of those curvy little seams. I like to remove the extra little batting at the opening, and you can either hand stitch this opening shut, or I like to use some Fabri-Tac glue. It's permanent and clear, and it's just way faster for me. I just add a little bit of glue in that opening, and it only really just takes a second for it to dry. So once everything is nice and flat, you'll want to give this a good little press all the way around and just smooth out those seams. Now I like to wait to stitch down my applique to this point, right? You could stitch down your applique before you create the layers of your mug rug, and all of your stitches would be hidden inside the mug rug. I like to wait until the body is done and turned right side out, because when I stitch down all of these applique pieces, it not only secures forever the shapes of the applique, but it's also going to quilt my mug rug at the same time. Today I'm just using a wide zigzag stitch. It's pretty quick and it looks really cute on this mug rug. And I'm just working my way around all of the different shapes. You could use any of the decorative stitches in your sewing machine. You could even do a hand stitch, right, with some DMC thread, some pearl cotton thread. Wouldn't that be super cute? I'm going to make my zigzag stitch a little bit smaller for the inside circles of the eye. The applique shapes are pretty big on this project, so if you're new to applique, this would be a great little beginner project for learning how to stitch down your pieces. So here she is. She's all stitched down, and I love the way that it looks from the back. So now that the body is done, we're ready to go ahead and create the other body parts, right? So you have 2 wing templates. You have a left wing and a right wing template, and you have the little foot template. Now each of these wing parts, you're gonna trace 2 times, right? Trace it first with the writing facing up, and then flip that template over so that the writing is facing down on your fabric, and trace it again. So that's your left wing right there. Then you're going to use the right wing template and do the same thing, tracing from the front and the back. The foot template, you're going to trace twice with the writing facing up, and then you're going to flip that template over and trace 2 more times with the writing facing down. That's going to give you all the front and backs of each one of your body pieces. Now I just arranged, duplicated, and mirror imaged all of my pieces in Canvas Workspace and sent that over to my cutting machine. So I'm going to cut out all of these pieces, just making sure that the scan is right over top of my fabric and not off of the edge. I love the auto blade on my scan and cut. That's awesome. And I like using this fabric mat. It has a pretty good stick to it, but still my pieces lift off pretty easily. So there are all of my body parts, and I'm just going to gently, without stretching them out of shape, just lift them off the mat. Now we're going to take these over and pair them up, and I know it's hard to tell because I've used a solid, so it's hard to see right side and wrong side. Your fabric choices might be totally different and make it easier, but we're going to pair up with the right sides facing together, the 2 feet and the 2 wings. Make sure you have that opening marked so that you don't forget to leave that space to turn these pieces right side out. And today, just to speed things up just a little bit, I'm only going to stitch one of the wings with you just so you can see how that goes. These pieces were also using the 1/4 inch seam allowance. I've enlarged these templates to allow for that. And again, that shorter stitch length will come in really handy because these pieces are quite smaller, especially the little feet. And that shorter stitch length will help give you a nicer curve along all of these pieces. You can see I stop and turn my work quite a bit just to get that nice little curve. So you're going to do this for both wings and both feet. You're also going to want to snip the seam allowances on all of these pieces too, because we want those curves to be nice and rounded once we flip these right side out. Once we have snipped all of these, we're going to flip them and give them a press. And you can either glue them shut like I did the body of the owl or hand sew that opening. For the body pieces, I'm actually just going to bring them over and use my little zipper foot. And I can stitch a stitch right close to the edge all the way around. And that's what I'm going to do with these 4 pieces. And now it comes time to securing the body parts. For my mug rug, I'm going to use 4 buttons and just hand sew them on. I wanted to be able to move the pieces around. You could certainly use your sewing machine and sew them securely in place. and then your body parts wouldn't move, right? But they'd be permanently attached. I have a larger needle and some DMC thread. And you'll see I'm going to start by bringing my needle down to the back from the front and leaving that little tail that you'll see. That's going to hide my knot once I secure all of the button stitches. It's going to hide the knot between the body of the owl and the wing. So now as I stitch, I'm going through all the way to the back and just making small little stitches so they're not that obvious. And once I'm done, I'm going to come in between the wing and the body, and then I can tie my knot. I usually do a double knot. Sorry, my hands are in the way. And there's my little stitch on the back. And now my knot is hidden right underneath of the wing, and now I can bury that thread and just cut off all the extra pieces. Having a needle threader would be handy. I did go get one after doing this first one. So now it's a nice, neat little join, and the knot is hidden, and I just have a small little stitch on the back. So you're going to go through and do that for the other wing and the 2 feet. And once that's done, your mug rug is complete. So pretty simple, right? I feel like even a beginner could make this mug rug and have it turn out super cute. If you make any of these mug rugs, I would love to see it. You can share your pictures over on the Creative Crew on Facebook, or you can send me an email. All the links for Creative Crew and my email are down in the description box below. I hope you enjoy this pattern. It's a lot of fun. See you really soon. Bye.